Salutations, good people. Welcome to the CS Podcast, where we create stuff, or if you're Trey,
create shit.
And today, we've got our hands absolutely full with Part 2.
Part 2. If you're wondering what the hell is going on right now, if you watch Part 1, you'll be caught up and you'll know. But if you're just too lazy or just don't want to, or you find yourself halfway through this going, I like that Vincent Baker guy, I'm going to go back and watch Part 1. We're doing it because this episode was 3 hours long, so we just decided to break it up just to help make it a little more digestible for you guys. And yeah, I guess that's about all we need to hit on this intro.
I believe so.
So,
back to us. Enjoy Part 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's see. We've covered some other worlds. Is there anything else that you want to go into with other worlds? I mean, that's one that we could do 3 or 4 episodes on, honestly, because it's so.
You do 40 hours on it.
There's enough meat and depth there that we really could. Especially, I mean, it's been in development. You've been doing other worlds for.
This is the 11th year that it's officially been a game.
Yeah.
Before that, though, I mean, even when we played the mission game, remember?
Yeah.
That?
Oh yeah.
That was basically the foundation for other worlds, but it wasn't public yet. But yeah, like Trey and I used to play like a lot of Nerf games where we'd have Nerf guns, and I made up all kinds of different game modes for that.
It's wild to think like. You know how kids go out and they just like, oh, we're soldiers and whatever. Like Vincent would like create missions, and then he would draw vehicles, and like he had currency, and like we would get paid for doing our missions, and then he was also like he would like sub in as like an extra person like playing, or he might be the bad guy that you have to fight, like the boss. But then he would also like you'd come back to base and he'd be like the armory guy, but then also like the chief that gives you the money is like, good job team, and like pays you. But then he'd be like, all right, over at the shop, and he'd put like a fake mustache on, and then, you know.
So it's wild because I didn't really know what role playing games were.
Yeah.
Like I don't think any of us really.
No.
But we were role playing, and the idea was it was called the mission game, which is what became Otherworlds.
Yeah.
And in the mission game, it's like, okay, this is the story. Everyone's an Iron Guard like soldier.
Yep.
And then you each have a starting weapon, and you can kind of like get new abilities and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he's right. Like I was like, here's the garage that has access to all your vehicles.
Yes.
And you can like purchase new vehicles and stuff. And I just played like Jack 3 where you had all those vehicles in that game. So it's like inspired by that. And then we'd literally be like, okay, here's a mission. There's like some bad guys trying to take down the cargo truck. You have to protect it.
Yep.
And so we'd literally get in the car, and like my grandparents would drive us somewhere.
We'd be like going to eat or something.
We'd be going out to eat or something, and I would make that into a mission where we had a whole game that we'd play while we're in the car, where we had to like shoot down the other cars before they would like attack our car.
Before they like passed us or something.
It had a rule set. We had to shoot them a certain amount of times before their car passed us. If their car passed us, we took damage on our vehicle. And I kept up with it.
Like, how in depth is that for? Like, it's so like there. I don't know if there are any other kids. Like, I feel special because I really don't know if there are any other kids that have done that. Like, that was such a cool.
And we had it too, where like if we rode in a certain car, we couldn't use certain vehicles. So we had heavy vehicles and we had small vehicles.
Yep.
We had medium size, and so if we got into a big vehicle, we could use a tank. And the tank actually had it where the person sitting in the middle could actually launch the main launcher. So we'd have like Ian sit in the middle, and then he'd be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. He's like, boom.
Yeah.
But you can't do that if we took like one of the lighter cars that just had like the 2 machine guns or something on it. It's like if you're sitting in the middle, you don't have access to weapons there. You had to like legit play by the rules of like how the vehicles are set up, and that's how you had to play in the car.
And bless Mima and Pop for putting up with us just in the back seat. The whole way.
So we can go ahead and stop right now, and we can go hop in the car and go do this crap right now.
I mean, seriously, I remember very vividly going into. I don't remember whose bedroom it was, but it was over at Mima and Pop's, and there just being Nerf guns and little like foam swords just splayed across the bed like an armory, and then like there's paper behind it with like different vehicles. Like I vividly remember that.
You walk over, it's like, hey, where's Vincent? Hey, he's in the room in the back. Oh, okay. You open the door. Hey, Vincent, how's it going? Good morning, soldier.
Yeah.
This is what we have on tap for today, and it's like, oh, yes, sir.
It's wild.
We had one game. I mean, there's different styles of missions. So that was the vehicle one that we just described. We had one that was based on like a stealth assassination type mission, where we'd have people that would enter in the home, like whenever me, Mom, Pop, or a family or whoever would like invite guests over. We'd have this whole mission where we'd have to tag the guests without them noticing us.
Yeah. Yes.
And if they spotted us, we lost a health. And we normally only have 3 health for these missions. So we'd sneak around and be like, all right, you go there, distract them. We'd like throw out like something to like roll. And they'd look, and I'm like, Kristen, go. And then she would dart out and just tag them. And they're like, why are you tagging me? And we're like, great job, you eliminated the target. And like we would do that to all the people, and it would be very difficult too.
Yeah.
Because they would always wonder what we're up to. So they would always they'd be like, you know.
These damn kids.
That was probably the hardest one out of all the game types we played. We also had one that was like base defense. We'd set up a tent. Or like on the bed, we'd build like pillow forts and fortifications and stuff.
I think we built one with cardboard outside too, like cardboard boxes. We crawled through it.
I think we had that like in the garage. We had the garage door open.
Yes.
I think Ian was the one that liked to do a lot with the cardboard. So he like created like a lot of cardboard fortifications. We're outside. It's like, okay, they're all attacking our base. You know, get them. It's like first wave's coming, and it's like, okay, we're recouping. Second wave's coming. And I would roleplay as some of the NPCs sometimes. So I'd be like, hey guys, it's nice to see you. Oh no! Like blown up, and just like spin out and die. And they're like, no.
We did like team deathmatch style stuff too. Mm-hmm. Like it would be like 2v2. Like we would always swap up teams. It'd be like me and Kristen versus you and Ian or something. Yeah. And remember when we had the giant rocket, like shot the foam rockets, and I tried to run away from the blast because it had a blast radius, and I turned to run and slammed straight into a tree.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was there. I was so caught up, and I mean the tree's as close as this wall, or maybe a little bit further, and I went, oh, bam!
Yeah, because Ian had just decided to just charge you.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no!
I can't be charged by him. Just turns around, just slaps right in the tree, and falls backwards like a Looney Tunes character. It was bad.
Left a little imprint.
I think that was the most hurt you got doing any of that.
Yeah. It was worth it though.
I think that was also one of the first times we hung out. I don't think it was the first, but I think it was one of the earlier.
Kind of in that,
I was like, well, he just wrecked it.
He's an idiot.
And Ian loved to build like he'd build a giant shield out of cardboard.
Yeah.
And he had a cutout, and he had the what do you call that, like wrapping stuff?
Oh, like saran wrap.
Saran wrap on the back so you could see through it, and he'd like walk at you slowly like a sentry, and you're like trying to shoot at him with like Nerf guns, and he's just blocking it all.
One of my most like terrifying moments, I remember Ian had the lightsaber, and I shot a Nerf gun at him, and he blocked the bullet. And you want to talk about like 11-year-old me crapping my pants? I was like, bam! And I just ran.
He's a Jedi.
I ran.
And then, I think it was you that I got with this, where I was like, hey Trey, I surrender. I don't want to fight. I was wearing like a hoodie. Yeah. And you're like, what? I don't understand, Vince. You're surrendering? Like, I've never seen you do this. And I had just purchased this very small pistol that was like this big. And I was like, not. And I just like pulled out and shot you.
It's like to call an ambulance, but not for me. Because we would have like 5 health. So if you got hit by the rocket launcher, it did like 3 damage.
No, if you got hit, it did 5.
It did 5, but it had
blast radius. You took 3.
That's what.
Come on, Trey.
Sorry, but like it depended on the weapon. Like if you got shot by like the sniper, it might do like 2 or 3 or something. I don't remember the stats.
Basically,
but
the standard ammunition did 1. Smaller like missile or like snipers and stuff did 3. Yeah. And then the giant mega rocket did 5.
That's what you need to do for your next venture, is just create like a LARP, like just bring that to life and just take it to the field, like take it to the Civic Center.
I thought about it. It seems like such a weird new territory. That I don't know exactly how to
It'd probably be a hit right now with COVID and everything. Yeah. Like we're kind of coming out of it and people need just that human interaction.
Mm-hmm. I definitely thought, I mean, I think it is a ton of fun. So,
but it's crazy how other worlds came from that. I mean, the foundation obviously was already there with the missions and the characters and the weapons and just the different, like, weapons had stats. Like you might get like your Nerf gun might have like poison damage or something. Like it was, I don't know. It's wild.
I had a ton of weapons, tons of vehicles, and it's important to note that I did all that before Borderlands even came out.
Yeah,
because now it's easy for me to point to Borderlands because it's a very popular franchise. People know about it, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But other worlds,
because we would have been
before that
15 when Borderlands came out, and we were like 10 and 11 doing this. I would have been I would have been like 15. You would have been 16.
Yeah, and I remember when. Well, I mean, and we started, I think, when we were like 12 and 13, honestly.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing Borderlands in Walmart, and I got it because like this kind of reminds me of Otherworlds. Like that's why I got Borderlands.
That's
like,
awesome.
I got Borderlands 1 because like, it kind of reminds me of Otherworlds. But then I realized it was all desert. And it's all and you know. And at first I didn't. When I first played Borderlands, I was actually going to take it back. I didn't like it the first night I played it. It felt,
really?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was like.
That's wild.
It just felt kind of like dry and boring. And a lot of people have that criticism for the first game because when you play it by yourself, it can feel. There's like not much going on.
I'm used to Borderlands 2 because I played the hell out of Borderlands 2. I just recently, like, I don't know, last month picked up the collection on Switch. It was like on sale. And I played through Borderlands 1 and didn't realize how little dialogue there is. Yeah. It's very much like there's a lot of reading in Borderlands 1 where like if you're just skipping through, like you accept the mission and you don't read what it says, you miss most of the humor.
Yeah, no, I agree. And but I will say what won me over with Borderlands is when they introduced the first boss, which was Nine Toes.
Yes.
So 9 toes. He has 9 toes and 3 balls.
Yeah.
And then he has a cool pistol where he has a blade on the bottom, and then it can catch things on fire.
Yeah.
I was like, now we're talking. Now we're getting into some interesting weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
I came from what initially inspired Otherworlds was more of Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter.
Could see that.
Yeah, and those games have really cool weapons and really cool designs and stuff, and so. Once you got into that with Borderlands, that's when I felt more at home and enjoyed it.
So, in Otherworlds, you also have so many different, like, there's so much lore, like, it's rich in lore, and you have all these different planets. You care to dive into that just a little bit?
Yeah, so it's tough to know where to start with it. Because I basically designed 12 worlds when I was 16 years old. And I felt compelled to stick to those 12 and not make any more at the moment.
Yeah.
So those 12 have been fleshed out more and have been put in this new project going on Kickstarter. But once we dive into those, I might start making some new ones.
Oh, nice.
That aren't from my 16-year-old self.
Yeah.
Because like a part of me is like, man, I kind of want to rename this one, or I kind of want to change this about it. But another part of me is like, hey, that was my 16-year-old self. I want to pay respect to the kid, the kid me, you know, that made that, and I feel like that's important to kind of have some of that charm. So even like looking back at it now, I might think some of the names are a little silly, or I don't like certain small aspects or details about it. I think it's kind of important to kind of play into some of that childhood imagination and charm that made Otherworlds in the first place. But yeah, I mean, some of the worlds I've been able to. At first, the world started off very basic. It was like, here's the ice world, here's the desert world, here's the forest world. And I quickly realized I didn't like that, because when people, it became like, oh, let's just change the scenery. Yeah. Like, okay, we're on the forest planet, let's change it up, go to the desert planet. So my goal, after running the game for maybe a year, maybe not even that much, I was like, I don't like this style of gameplay where we're constantly just moving worlds. Mm-hmm. I like the ability to move worlds, but I want every world to be so compelling and so rich with lore that you can spend an entire campaign on one world and feel completely satisfied, and like you could explore like a whole saga just on that one planet.
Which has been done.
yeah. And I mean, like, we played through some adventures where it was very focused on just one world, and it felt very much its own style, its own theme, and it felt like that one world was alive. Like when we did the one on Yamanoko, and then they had the different dragons that represent the different lands, and then they had the passion dragon. The miniature I had for the passion dragon had this very long tongue. Like, oh, okay, you're the passion dragon. And,
okay.
And he was like giving out tons of money, but before that they met the dragon of generosity. Yeah. But he gave him less money.
Yeah, he was generous my ass. Like, I'm still a little bitter about that. It's been like 3 years.
But yeah, so that world is supposed to be like Lord of the Rings if it was told through a more like Eastern perspective, like Eastern influences. Yeah. So it has like orcs and elves and kobolds and stuff, but there's sort of your more Eastern dragons. Some like, it's like, this is the land of fire, the land of earth.
I think what's really cool about, like, especially like, just take Yamanoko for example, like how much the worlds have evolved from like you said, like this is the ice planet, this is the desert planet, how it felt like a world, like it wasn't just a reskinned biome. You know, like if you go from like from there to like like Arquin or Frogna, thank you. Is Zepetan? Is that one?
Zepetan.
Yeah. So like how the culture is different. Like it's weird to say that, but like really it's different cultures on these different planets. Like how, I don't know, just detailed it is.
Yeah, like because on Zepetan, like their thing is they're a bunch of survivors. Zepetan's one of the harshest like landscapes because they have like tons of dangerous creatures there. Like their wildlife is some of the most just like you don't want to mess with it kind of thing.
Yeah.
They also have like a metal organism that's like this liquid ooze that gets on things and then coats it in metal and kind of takes over the creature and makes them like metallic creatures that like make them even tougher and harder to fight. But a lot of those people there, like scavengers, warriors, hunters, and a lot of the societies there will, like one of the traditions on that planet is they will send off their people as soon as they enter into adulthood and basically exile them temporarily, where they put them out in the wilds, and then they're not allowed to return. Well, they can return whenever they want, but whatever they return with like the trophy taken from a creature that they had slain.
Yeah.
And the better the trophy, the better ranking in society that they get to have for like job opportunities and what kind of life they get to have. And some people that are more afraid, more cowardice, or less powerful will come back with something small, and so they have to get grunt work or something that's not as good. But if someone comes back with something crazy, it's like, okay, you can actually work your way up to be a general or whatever.
It's just so wild. Like that was thought through that you came up with that. Like I don't know, it's so.
Yeah, and
it's incredible.
The last campaign that not quite the last one, but the one before the last one that I've been running, Otherworld's Adventures, that one takes place on Anthos. And that one's interesting because they've been having an issue where they started with the Awakening, which is a big event in Otherworlds. That's basically the main starter point for Otherworlds. Basically, the idea is all the worlds in the universe have ancient relics and artifacts. But they didn't do anything. Like people would just look at it and be like, oh, here's this weird structure, here's this weird little thing here. None of it does anything. Then the Awakening happens, and everything like turns on and is activated. And so it's like, oh wait, we can walk through this, and it's a portal to another world, or we can use this wanderer to transport ourselves to different worlds, and that's the main modes of transportation. But they're extremely rare. So like, a lot of times, like groups will have to get together. And they're like, hey, like none of us have a wanderer to travel between worlds, but we're all interested in becoming otherworlders and pursuing that for our career. Let's go on quests, do different missions, do different things, and try to work together to find a wanderer, and we'll split it between us. So that's a good incentive to keep your game going. But with Anthos in particular, through the Awakening, they've been able to start being connected to different worlds, get more technology. They've been doing some trades. They've been advancing in society. They have a lot of humans there that are very fascinated by innovation and pursuit of the future and trying to work very hard to do that. So they've been setting up these different cities, but as they start setting up these cities that have a lot of power and energy to them and providing like a lot of quality of life things to everyone there, there's these mysterious like shadow beasts called Chimera that's been forming, and they don't know where they've come from. And then they start attacking the cities. They feel drawn to them, and they're like, "Oh, this is a problem." That they don't know where they've come from. And then you have people out in the wilds that are different, like the satyrs and the centaurs. And those people living out in the wilds, and they were living fine without the cities. But now the cities are constructed, and all these beasts are coming to attack them. And they're kind of getting wrapped up into things, and they're like, "Well, we hate that you guys are doing this." and so it's just created this whole like interesting world with what's going on with that. But the Chimera, like. Slight spoiler alert, they have something to do with this entity known as Zexivus, which I know that you've heard before. And
I know the name.
Zexivus was this ancient being that was constructed by the ancients, which is the race that left all these relics and wanderers and stuff. That they were like the first race that inhabited the universe and was developing all this technology. They got super advanced, and then they're like, we can create something amazing that's powerful that can create things in and itself. But that thing became so powerful, it was like, oh no, we can't stop it. So they had to do whatever they could to stop it, and they had to basically sacrifice themselves, the majority of them, to seal that thing away into another dimension. And these Chimera are sort of, is like leakage from that dimension and spawning into this world. And they're drawn to the city because they may or may not have some sort of ancient thing powering up their cities that they're using to their benefit.
Oh,
So,
okay.
So there's a lot of interesting lore that's all connected there. Like Trey and I played in a campaign where it's on a whole different world, and they had a whole different thing going on with Zexivus.
Yeah.
Where, you know, his hand was coming through the black sea.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? This is just a hand. And
Yeah.
it, like, wiped away an entire fleet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a lot there. There's a lot of lore, and at first I was scared. Like when I made Otherworlds, I was scared to add in all this lore and stuff because I was like, well, if I have all this lore and I tell everyone what everything's about, then people can't be as creative as they want to because it puts them in boxes. But then I learned that's not the case at all. It gives you.
I almost feel like it opens the box.
It does, because with some limitations, it actually gives you more freedom, and because it gives you like a path to start on. It gives you some ideas to work with.
Yeah.
And so Otherworlds is very much about that now, where it's like, I want these to feel like awesome worlds to travel to and inhabit and to live in. And so they're very much like fleshed out, and they're not just like a basic.
Well, they're alive. Like, I don't know. It's not something that I can say. And now my tabletop role playing experience is limited. I've played Otherworlds. I've played D&D. I've played a couple of other small offshoots here and there. So it is limited. But I feel like of those that I've played, Otherworlds feels the most alive and the most just, I don't know, vibrant, rich. I would say.
I appreciate that. I feel like there is a lot of RPGs on the market that just go for generic fantasy.
And it's like, oh, you can do whatever you want to with it. Create your own world or in it, you know.
It's like, here's the thing. You have elves and dwarves in a tavern, and it's like, okay.
Seen that, done it.
It's fine,
yeah.
but like, there's not more, there's not more to it. It doesn't feel very inspired.
And so I think another unique thing that I like about Otherworlds is it's a D6 system.
It is,
and
yeah.
the explosions that happen.
Yeah, so exploding dice, for anyone watching that doesn't know what that is that anytime you roll a dice, if it lands on a 6, you get to continue rolling. It counts as a critical.
Oh, man.
So you can just get criticals on top of criticals.
It's such a rewarding feeling. Like, I can't tell you how many times we've sat there and I guess it was in the mines. We were down there with the dwarves, and I was down to like 1 health or something. Like, I think Ajax was down. Like, all the miners were hurt, and we were like, we got to get out of here. It's a party wipe.
The Kobold King.
Yeah, the Kobold King is a party wipe. I was like, what are we gonna do? 6. 6. 6. And and the more you do, the more 6s you roll, they add up as points, like a point system that you can cash in to do really badass things. Like, that's just the best way to put it, is just super badass.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so for example, if you have 2 crits, you can double your damage, or you can get an extra attack. Or if you're being attacked, you can use your 2 crits to do a counterattack.
Yeah.
You can evade what they're doing at you and just stab them in the neck or something.
Which you don't do in a lot of tabletop role playing games. You can actually roll for defense in this one, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and part of that too is I noticed that in other RPGs I've seen it, that since they lack that, when it's not your turn, and when like an enemy attacks you and stuff, you might notice people pick up their phone and they're just kind of like, okay, well, I've done my turn. Yeah. Even if I take damage, I don't have to roll for it. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to make any decisions. I'll just pass my turn until it's back to me. Yeah. With Otherworlds, it's like, oh wait, I'm getting attacked right now. Your ears perk up because you know that you might die. Because that's the whole other thing about Otherworlds too.
Oh yeah.
Is Otherworlds I've heard people say more than other RPGs, it feels like the S hits the fan.
Yes.
Quickly. And what's crazy is if you just look at Otherworlds, you might not think that, because a lot of times, like, there's a lot of color and there's like some silliness to it, so you might think like, oh, it's just like a power fantasy. The idea is like it mixes the idea between having like cool powers, cool abilities, being able to do cool things, but I love weightiness. I love it when you see like a punch and it connects, like it's felt. It
feels like an anime, and like I know Caleb has likened it to that. Like when you start describing things, and like you come up, and you do the flips, and then like the fucking boss like catches the sword or something, and you're just like, because he rolled 2 crits, and you're just like,
yeah. And let me say this too: someone watching that might be familiar with tabletop RPGs might say, well, that's just the way Vincent runs it. But even though that there is a partial truth to that, the game itself lends itself to that type of storytelling.
Very much so.
Because in another RPG, if you're like trying to describe this epic anime fight, and I'm like, all right, he dodges out of the way and he goes to punch you right in your face, and it feels like the anime fight, and I say, all right, he rolls, and then you have 150 health and he dealt 8 damage, does it really feel like that was a very impactful hit?
No, but if you have 12 health and he does 8 damage.
Exactly. You feel it a lot more because
Yeah.
you're like, oh no, I'm on the cusp of dying.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm almost
bleeding out.
brain dead. Like, that hurt.
Yeah, because like a lot of the hits feel weighty. Like if you get hit.
Oh, yeah.
But what's cool though is there's a lot of opportunities to defend the attack or to dodge the attack too. So it's not like you're constantly being hit. It's just if you are hit, it's probably going to hurt, especially if it's like, you had a bullet shoot you or something.
Yeah, well, it's very dynamic as far as the combat system. It's very fluid. It just flows well. I haven't had an Otherworld session, whether I've run it or you've run it or somebody else has run it, that I've sat there and been kind of like waiting. It just kind of it flows really well. You're engaged because you never know what's going to happen, and I like that. Like, the enemies are dangerous. But they're also, how do I put this? Like, they're beatable.
Yeah.
So like there's just enough challenge. It's not a Dark Souls where you're gonna get your ass beat in the ground all the time. But it's not like running through a Mario game where there's really no, there's risk, but there's a reward. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah,
It really is.
The idea for the baseline difficulty for Otherworlds is I want everyone to think or to feel like there is a small amount of danger, and if they act really stupid, then someone might die.
Yeah.
But if you all play decently well to good, you guys should make it out okay.
Yep.
It'll be fine. That's the idea for the baseline challenge. Now,
You might come out with 10 less health than you came in with, but you're still alive, or maybe somebody's down. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, like I did run a game recently though that if someone's watching had watched that stream. Basically, everyone got murked. But I rose the difficulty on that one.
Yeah.
So it wasn't your baseline challenge. I was like, let's see if they can handle if I kind of add the challenge level. So I gave them a little bit more than they could chew, and it actually showed. Like, if you start raising that difficulty level, like it's actually felt within the players. Abby was in that one.
Oh yeah, no, that was really bad. The only reason that we even were okay was that those guys were weak to holy, which I had.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah. She could counter like them, and they were weak to like stuff that she had, but. That was we just done like a dumb one shot where like Martians like invaded the city or something just as like a really dumb thing. That's not even part of the official lore or anything. We were having a Martian theme week because we were playing Destroy All Humans, and so I was just like, I'm just gonna theme everything Martian this week. So that didn't have much relation to Otherworlds, but it was a fun session nonetheless.
Yeah, it was fun even if we all got murdered.
You heard it here, folks.
But yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like sometimes people could feel like maybe like without playing the game, just hearing about it and hearing like there's 6-sided dice, you roll them, they explode, so you keep rolling. They might feel like, well, that sounds like it could be kind of swingy, kind of thing. And to be fair, it might be a little more swingy than maybe a traditional RPG, but it lends itself to where it's very intentionally balanced that way, to where you're not like penalized like heavily for something. It doesn't feel like anything's unfair that lasts or anything
And I like that both sides are equally weighted that way. So I can't tell you how many times I've hit 3 crits and then the boss come back with 4 and I get counterattacked. And I'm like, because we're like, yeah. We're like, ah! And then you start rolling and we're like, no, because they cancel each other out.
And it's just, it makes it so it keeps you on your toes more.
It really does.
I like to look at it that way. Because if it wasn't for that element of the game, I think you'd have more of that monotonous combat. Because one thing I hate is just the idea of like hit point sponges. Like you deal damage, they lose hit points. They deal damage, you lose. It just goes back and forth. In Otherworlds, it's very much like every single round is drastically different. Like everything that changes from round to round is like noticeably different.
I agree with that.
Oh yeah.
I'm having a blast just listening to the lore and all of it. Like, I'm just taking it in.
I'm telling you, man, like we could do 4 or 5 podcast episodes just on Otherworld. So there's so much to dive into.
Yeah, and I haven't made many changes to the game over the years. A lot of the changes have been very minor. It's been like some rewordings or maybe +1 or -1.
Or a layout of a character sheet, I know.
Yeah, and the layout, those things, like, in general, like, don't change that much. Like, because you still have the same information.
It just moves different places. So it looks more pleasing.
Yeah, and I want to make sure the information's more easily communicated.
Yeah.
Because I just updated the character sheet, but then I got to play recently in a game, and I was thinking, like, I could do this a little bit better. I could make this a little bit easier to read and stuff. But luckily, you can know the rules and none of that stuff will affect you. It's just that you can play the game easier is the idea. What was it? Oh yeah, the only change that's happened of any real note that I think since you played is when you played, there were character backgrounds, which you could say your character came from nobility, they came from the streets, that kind of stuff. I changed it for something that I think lends itself very much to what Otherworlds is all about, and something I think that would excite you, which is called themes. Now, what a theme is it can be the background, so it can still be nobility, it can still be raised on the streets. We get to pick two. So instead of having your one background that's among these 6 things, and then you have 2 people that were born on the streets, 2 people from nobility, and 1 guy who's like some working job or whatever. Yeah. You can choose themes, which are way more interesting. Themes are going to be things that help describe your character and give them sort of an extra oomph to sort of either help your role playing or characterize who you are. So, for example, one of the themes is animalistic. So if you're like, I want to be like a human, but I want to maybe someone wants a homebrew campaign where they're like a race of people that have like fox ears, like they're humans, but they have fox ears and they have like claws. Yeah. Well, you can choose the animalistic theme and give yourself fox ears and claws. So it gives you completely new options on the table where you can really create what you want. Cyborg is a theme. So you can just choose the cyborg. You can choose whatever race you want, like normal. So you can be a cyborg of that race, and you get to choose that, and you get to choose your augmentations.
That's awesome.
Signature weapon is a theme. So like I'm a fan of Ruby, and in Ruby they get to create their own weapons. Ruby herself has a weapon that's a sniper rifle scythe. Yeah. And with signature weapon, you can actually modify and create your own weapon that actually gets to level up with you as you level up the game. Yeah. What? Yeah. So that could be your theme. Your theme could be an heirloom that's passed down from generation to generation. There's a thing that goes with that. There's one that is for a caretaker. So it's like if you want to be someone, the caretaker theme makes it so basically like once per day, you're so thoughtful and caring about those around you, you can already have a gift kind of already ready for someone that could be like flowers or wine or like something simple that's not worth a certain amount of money. Yeah. That's described in the game. And so you can like always be prepared to like give something to someone. Themes by their nature aren't classes. They're not meant to sound like classes or anything, so it's not stepping on the toes of characters' classes. And also, I didn't want to create any themes that were like a go-to where everyone felt like they needed to pick it. Yeah. An example would be a theme that gives you an extra attack. Like, since there's combat in the game, it's like, well, I'm going to feel like I'm missing out if like everyone else gets an extra attack and I don't, especially just from this theme. So the themes are a lot more like role-play and story-focused. Okay. Even if some of them might have effects on combat, but not necessarily giving you advantages. If anything, it might just negate disadvantages at the very most. I'm trying to think of other ones. There's elemental augmentation. So if you wanted your person to have an affinity for fire, where for some story reason you could be burned by fire and it doesn't hurt you, you can actually have that. You could have that as part of your theme, and you could have it too where fire does more stuff. Oh yeah, so I modified that one a little bit, Abby, to even be So there's a thing called mind over matter. Okay. And part of that is it encompasses anyone that can get over physical limitations by being like in their headspace, but in a very positive way. So, for example, they can sense everything around them without having to see, and so you get no penalties if you can't see. For example, when it comes to fighting,
that would have been perfect for my character.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's also you have a higher pain tolerance, like suffering from pain, unless it puts you in critical health, doesn't make you lose concentration. You can also hold your breath twice as long as normal. And you can also go twice as long without having to eat or need water or anything like that. So and you can also apply that to anything else you can come up with for the World Mastery. So like, hey, I have this mind over matter thing, so like would this apply? And you can have it integrated into the story that way.
That's cool. I like that. That's a good change. I like that.
I appreciate it. And it adds more of that mix and match thing. So you might choose mind over matter, you might choose mind over matter, but each of you might choose a whole different thing where yours is you can turn into a fireball. And then yours is you're a cyborg. And then on top of that, you're a dwarf and you're a human. And then, so it adds itself to that whole mix and match feature. Which, speaking of which, I mean, the classes, you get to build your own class.
That's what I was going to get into next.
So, you both might be playing assassins, but he might be speccing into a sniper that is very good at having like persuasive dealings and has like a lot of black market connections through his skill tree. But you might be one that uses 2 swords that's good with dual wielding and has shadow magic. So you play completely differently.
So the class system is a tree based. Well, yeah, I guess tree based would be the
Yeah, which is inspired after video games, and I don't know. I'm sure there's a tabletop RPG that has this.
I haven't seen
I've never
any.
seen it.
I've never seen it's the most dynamically different class system that I've ever seen. Like typically with your when you level up in your traditional tabletop role playing game, at level 3 you get this skill. At level 5 you can choose between these two skills. But like if I play an assassin and you play an assassin, it's pretty much the same thing, but at level 5 maybe I took this skill and you took that skill, but we still dual wield or whatever. Like it's pretty cut and dry as far as what you do. Now you could always like multi-class, and that kind of ups the customization a little bit, but I don't know, for me multi-classing in those is a little confusing. So I never really did it that much.
It is. I think it's especially confusing for new players. And one thing I've noticed is other worlds when new players play it actually understand it easier sometimes than people that play a lot of other tabletop RPGs. And I think the reason why is because it's actually very intuitive, but people get used to playing games that aren't intuitive, and they get their headspace into all these different rules.
It's got to be convoluted.
Yeah, they get into these rules like multi-classing has to mean that you have to forego this to get that and try to go a level here, not a level there.
Yeah.
Whereas in other worlds, it's simply like you build your own class right out the gate and you just go through the tree and you have fun picking whatever you want.
Yeah.
Finally, an advantage to not having experience.
So, granted, I'm a little biased because it was my first tabletop role-playing game, but it is still the easiest one. Like even having, like I haven't picked up Other Worlds and played it in a couple of years, and I know that I could still sit down and I could play it.
Nice.
Just like I had played it then. I could create a character and not have any trouble. Like it's super easy to just jump right into, and it just makes sense.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to play again sometime soon.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm itching for it. I had some really fun times with the kobolds and the Black Seas and
Yes.
stuff too. So.
Which is one of my favorite the Black Seas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We had the pirates and that's we have an Into the Black Tides module that we're working on. That one's gonna be separate from the core rulebook, but that one introduces pirate roles.
So much fun.
That's on the ship, it has like ship mechanics. And you get to, it tells you like to name your ship, and then you choose who's your captain, who's your cook, all these different things, and then you could go ahead and describe your character. I want to check my notes on my phone.
Oh man, it was like a Frankenstein so he's called what was it? I guess his name was, I called it Igor, like a play on Igor, with Frankenstein. Yeah. He was a grafter, but like basically his skills is like when he killed an enemy, he could take harvest parts from that enemy and graft them onto his own body. And
which our friend died in the first session. But,
that's a
but here's the thing. So normally in Other Worlds, like I just said, like your baseline challenge is that normally people won't like permanently die in the game. But to be fair, in this case, this person made a very, very dumb decision.
Yeah, I was about to say you're good as long as if you're not making like dumb decisions, which I guess it kind of like the way he was playing his character kind of made sense why he made the decision, but still it was a dumb decision and got him killed.
There were like 100 skeletons, a lot of more archers. And they built a fortification. They were going to tunnel in the skeletons through both ends, where they split at the wall and they have to go on one of the other sides, get funneled in, pick them off one by one. This person decided. The gargoyle character flew by and then turned his skin to stone, and the arrows didn't do anything to his stone skin. This person also could fly, but was very exposed, had no armor, nothing like that. Flew over, was like, I can do that too. Flew over, looked at the skeletons, and they just went. Just plummeted down the ground. It was still alive, but like barely and the skeletons walked over and just took their axes, just started chopping her.
No.
She's like, just
death check, no.
And then whenever he got a hold of her, he like ripped her wings off.
I took the wings.
His body. But they found a way to bring her back to life, but she was mad that she lost her wings.
She lost her wings. I wouldn't give them back. But I was the cook. I was the quartermaster. I guess, the quartermaster. And that was my primary job, was making sure everybody was fed and good to go. So
with wings, you can do that more efficiently now.
Yeah, exactly. I can reach the top shelf.
Very nice.
But no, it's such a cool, I don't know, just that whole pirate expansion was a lot of fun. Just all the different play testing. And then in that same vein, we weren't really playing as pirates, but we kind of used some of the races and stuff from it. I thought that's where I had the blind gunslinger, like exorcist, like his.
Well, what's cool is that whole world is the pirates. You know?
Yeah.
So the idea is you have this entire world to discover and roleplay and figure out. But there's one continent called Yedrich, and they have a lot of criminals that escape onto the kind of the edge of the world where there's the Black Sea, and that's where a lot of piracy happens.
Yep.
And it got even worse because there was this king, King Ravnos, was ruling over all the stuff, and he had been ruling for hundreds of years. This very he's like a vampire dude that was a terrible king, tyrannical. He would subjugate humans. He subjugated the werefolk, and basically treated everyone like crap. Even some of the vampires. And then he had some of the vampires in his highest ranking he treated well. But the werefolk and the humans bonded together to stage a rebellion against them. And they partnered with some people that were on the inside of the vampire kingdom, such as his right-hand captain. And he got the captain to betray him. But the problem is the werefolk and the humans lost tons of their lives. It was a bloody rebellion. And then the captain managed to kill the king. And then when they walked in there, the captain was sitting atop the throne, and then he took charge instead of the werefolk or the humans.
Oh.
So vampires are still in charge.
Yep.
But it's a new guy in charge.
And he used the werefolk and the wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Now here's the thing, though. Now here's where it gets complicated. Understandably so, a lot of humans and werefolk are angry about it.
Yeah.
But this king is nicer. He is nicer. So it is crappy what he did. But he's not he doesn't just subjugate people. He might give them crappy jobs, but he will pay them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he will give them work and stuff, and he does compensate for it. He does, tend to lean towards them having the lesser jobs and stuff, but they are getting paid, and they're not being tortured or anything like that. So it's kind of it's tough because it's not as black and white as like, oh well, this guy's just evil, we just gotta take him out, because like life is considerably better now. So some people don't feel the need to go at war again. But where Into the Black Tides comes into play is some of the king's former people who were very awful, including this guy who was like one of the scientists that was like an evil scientist experimenting on people, tortured people, doing awful experimentations. He fled to the Black Seas alongside some of the other generals, captains, some of the other people, and you're tasked by the new king. He basically gets his sister to be she's an assassin for hire, but makes her into
swooning.
Makes her into a privateer and has her form a group, and then you can either play as the privateers going to capture the pirates. Or you can just play as the pirates on the Black Seas trying to avoid the privateers. Yeah. And you can try to choose how you want to roleplay that. Or you can just completely ignore the pirate stuff and just play like a Halloween Game of Thrones going on in the rest of the world, because there's different castles, there's vampires and werefolks, and there's like, weird political things with like rebellions and stuff going on. So you can sort of ignore the pirate stuff if you want and focus on that.
I think my favorite character out of that is Captain Buffbeard.
Oh, yeah.
Like I love that's another thing with other worlds are the names.
Thank you. I'm glad that you like the name.
Toe, like it's such a stupid name.
That was improv.
I know, but it's still I still think of Toe from time to time fondly. I just want you to know that.
That's good. I want to put them into a game at some point. We have a board game and you get to experience the board stuff.
Well, that's something we don't have to touch on it, but thinking of board games and offshoots, like I love that. Everything kind of happens in the same universe. Like Spellslingers has like its crossover with other worlds, and like first thing that comes to mind that I don't know if you're ever going to do anything with it, but Fiend Hunter took place on Trancel. Like there's a tie-in there with other worlds. Like I don't know.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, Fiend Hunter is a board game I made like 2 nights before my birthday party when I turned 18. And I knew I was having some friends over, and I was like, I just felt randomly inspired. That's how most of these games happen. I'm just like doing whatever, and then boom, it hits my brain. I'm like, I have to make this. Yeah. Like that's literally what happened with Heads or Tails and Guillotine. Like and Spellslingers.
I was gonna say Spellslingers was made in
Spellslingers I made in one night. Like I made the initial draft in one night, and every single card in the game I made that same night, with the exception of one.
Yeah, that's wild.
One card confused everyone, but I changed that. But yeah, it hits me, and of course, like through playtesting, some of the numbers change. Yeah, the rules are kind of maybe changed a little different and stuff. But like in general, a large basis of the game is formed. I'm losing my train of thought. What
We were talking about Fiend Hunter.
Fiend Hunter. Yeah. So I definitely want to do something with Fiend Hunter. I have some ideas. You'll have to stay tuned for that.
Yes.
But at the very least, I want to make nods to it. Or I was looking at maybe a Fiend Hunter X Spellslingers expansion.
Oh, that'd be cool. I'd like that.
I did the mock-ups for the character cards.
Yeah.
And it has that like red and black look.
Oh,
it has
yes.
the card art and stuff. I was like, this is just really cool. And they have a unique mechanic that I'm toying around with where each of the characters, they deal with their effects. Being that you banish cards from the discard pile, which means you remove them from the game.
Ooh.
So you can selectively choose things that you don't want to reshuffle back in.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you can fire off their weapons that do certain effects.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, so got some cool things going on there.
Is there anything on your bullet point? Like, because I know you brought a list, so I want to make sure we hit everything that you want to talk about as well.
So we kind of unintentionally talked about everything except for, I guess, one thing I want to talk about is we talked about like the themes, which are really cool for like story purposes and a lot of character creation purposes.
Yeah.
We talked about create your own class, which also lends itself to that. We talked about how weighty the attacks are, how fast the combat can be, how dynamic it is. I love that you use the term dynamic. That's my favorite term for that, and I think that aptly describes it better than a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
The only thing I'd like to add to any of that is because some people are very they want to know more about the story type stuff, and there's something I put at the front of the game in the Otherworlds book, which is it's labeled puzzles and problems, and the idea for this is it basically tells you at the top of the book, it's like, hey, look, this is important. Like if you have any certain idea in mind for like a specific, like we'll say like a riddle that players get.
Okay.
Or like a certain trap that has to be solved a certain way. It's very much encouraged by the game itself to say if your players come up with cool ideas, to roll with it. You know, like it. So like, for example, the riddle might say like, oh, they have to do this, this, and this, but the game itself says, well, what overrides that is if they work together to create something cool, go off of that story and add to that, and let that bypass the puzzle or the riddle or whatever it may be.
I like that.
Because to me, the story part is more important, and the collaboration is more important. So I try to make sure that the rule book is putting weight behind that. So it's not like people have to assume these things. It's the game itself telling you that this supersedes the other stuff.
That makes sense because I feel like I've had so many of those moments in Otherworlds. Like it really is a game filled with those. Like, you know how like people talk about like their other tabletop role playing game sessions. They're like, oh well, you know, this one time I did this. It feels like every time I play Otherworlds, I'm doing that. It lends itself towards those moments, which to me is something that I enjoy a lot.
I appreciate that.
And it's not over the top. Like it doesn't get played out. Like it's not that you're doing anything crazy or it just like it. You go into saying like it's not anything like you're not doing anything overpowered or anything that breaks the game. It's just these moments that are really special. Like you came together and like you solved this riddle in a really funny or interesting way that like it's very memorable. There are a lot of memorable moments, I should say.
Yeah, and the game itself. I mean, because people watch it, they're like, well, you could do that in any game, and it's like. Yeah, but the thing is like whatever the game is designed to kind of inspire and make you think of, definitely has a huge emphasis on like how people end up playing the game. Yeah. For example, I mean, like Pathfinder, for example, I'm not sure if they changed this on their character sheets, but at least at a time they had it where they had no personality traits listed on the characters. They had, like D&D has like your bonds, your ideals, that kind of stuff. Well, Pathfinder didn't have any of that, and people in Pathfinder were like, hey, like. That doesn't make the D&D better because in Pathfinder you can also like come up with bonds and ideals and stuff. Yeah. But the thing that game design helps with is by having them listed there though, it gets you thinking about it. Whereas a lot of people that play Pathfinder aren't encouraged to think about it. So yes, you can do it, but you have to kind of go out of your way to do it.
Well, there's a difference between being able to do something in a game and it being integrated into a game. Exactly. With having it in mind.
Yeah. So that's a good way to put it. So with Otherworlds, I tried to integrate very important things such as this that people like to experience, as opposed to just saying like, oh yeah, you guys can technically do whatever you want. The other part of it. I just had on my notes and I was like, I'll remember. I can put my notes away.
Dang it.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of times what's standard for creating characters in any RPG is what I call like top-down design, where you start with like the name or like the character's race and then the class. You just go through the book choosing things. That especially makes sense if you're new to the game. You're trying to learn like what type of lore it has, stuff like that. But after you get more familiar with the game, Otherworlds actually encourages you now to go from bottom up, which I think is fun. So it's like if you have a cool character in mind, you can actually start with a cool character idea in your head, and then you're incentivized to create the character out of your idea, like through the game mechanics itself.
I've created Spider-Man, like...
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is you start from your imagination, and then you make sure that the game works for you, other than you working for the game.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm proud that the game, I feel like, can represent very well.
Yeah. Let's see. There's so much to like moving away from Otherworlds. I mean, we've talked about Spell Slingers. We've brought up obviously Guillotine. We've delved into that.
The crawl, you lightly touched on the idea of it being a shared universe. And what's funny is that wasn't intentional, but the idea is it just makes sense for Otherworlds.
Yeah, it really does.
Otherworlds was the first game, and by its very nature, there's multiple worlds. There's multiple universes.
Therefore,
so just by its very nature, it just made sense. And then when I did Spell Slingers, it's like, well, like, why can't there just be a world where there's these spell slingers, and like their thing is they get this magic, and so spell slingers has its own lore and its stuff going on.
And I know at one point you played around with a spell slingers class that you'd created for us that we kind of, I know we touched on it when we were all playing Otherworlds heavily.
I forgot about that. I need to pull that back out.
Yeah, so like it's cool that not only did Otherworlds dip into spell slingers, but spell slingers bled into Otherworlds as well with its very own class. And you know, it's not a quote unquote canon or official, I would say, because you're still it's something that's still play tested and haven't. Yeah. But it's something that was there and it was thought of.
Yeah, and speaking of the crossover and things not released, there's a card game I'm working on that's based off of like a visual novel.
Oh, interesting.
But as a card game, it's called Heartseeker, and the idea is it takes characters from all of our games, and you try to win over their hearts, and whoever wins over the hearts of most people in the game, most of the characters, by the end of the game wins the game.
That's cool.
Interesting.
And so we have that one's cool because it's the first game that very much acknowledges the crossover component.
Yeah.
Because there's characters from like just like your like first Otherworld stuff to the Otherworld stuff that we've done on Twitch. To Spell Slingers to Legendaria.
That was another one I was going to touch on too.
Yeah. They even reference, so we have a Spell Slingers character in there, and she's wearing a shirt that has Ghost from Guillotine on it.
Oh,
so,
okay.
even that character is referencing a different game.
That's such a cool little Easter egg. Like, I like that.
Yeah,
that is cool.
I'll have to show you guys some of that stuff. I don't have anything with me for that, but that one's been a ton of fun playing.
It's just crazy how many, like, for those that don't know you, like, I've played so many games that you're like, oh yeah, I came up with this, and I'm like, okay, like it's like you never stop. It's just always popping them off.
That's one of my biggest problems because I have other games on the back burner too. I have one that you would really like it's currently called Gallant, and that one is kind of it's currently my take on Greek mythology, but here's the thing is that it's kind of interspliced with. There's a few other mythologies kind of sprinkled in through the wormholes that kind of show up in this Greek mythology. Okay. And then other expansions can be other mythologies.
That's cool.
And it's basically my take on a like sit-down like strategy card game. Mm-hmm. You know, like your other popular card games, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah. Where instead of being like Spell Slingers, it's more kind of like a bridge game where it's like everyone sits around the table, plays, very portable. Yeah. It's a nice in-between game. Gallant is very much like, here's like my take at a very like actual like strategic, like we each bring our own decks, we each choose our own like main character to like be our leader.
Ooh, I like
and we
that.
go head to head, and it seems like it's probably Abby's favorite game that fits within that line of like being like a strategy card game. Yeah. The idea is at the start of your turn you gain 3 gold, no matter no matter whose turn it is or what turn you're on, you gain 3 gold, and then you can choose to spend that gold however you want to play your cards that have gold costs. Or you can save your gold and play bigger things. Okay. You never get like gold screwed. So you never have to worry about like not having enough. And there's one thing I love about it is a lot of card games choose between having the idea of like you attack with everything at once and then they choose to block. Mm-hmm. Or they have it where you attack a character, kind of thing. But what it is in this game is you can choose to attack the player, or you can choose to attack a vulnerable enemy unit, which is the ones that if they're turned sideways, they're vulnerable.
Oh,
so
okay.
You can selectively target their people who are vulnerable or attack them, and then they can choose to defend themselves. And the idea is whenever you hit someone every time you hit someone, you gain valor, and if you gain 7 valor, you win the game. So there's also a cool component where no one gets eliminated until the game's over, because if we play a 4-player game of Gallant, you win by getting 7 valor.
Yeah.
But no one gets eliminated the entire time, so everyone's playing the game
Oh,
the entire
geez.
time, which is very unique for those style of games, because normally you have like life points or hit points or whatever.
Yeah, or like we'll
Drains
team
to
up and
0.
take you out because that makes sense. Form a little alliance.
Yeah,
Like
and then I sit out for like an hour because you guys are still playing.
which that's in going back to the game design. I haven't played a game of yours where that is an issue. I don't think you have a game where you're sitting out and just watching for any more than 5 minutes. Like Spellslingers is the only one that comes to mind because you can be eliminated in
Yes.
Spellslingers, but the games are so fast.
Yeah, where like because I know that can be an issue with games, and Spellslingers I let it slide or whatever, just because it is it's meant to be a fast and quick game.
Yeah.
Heads or Tails don't have that issue. Heartseekers don't have that issue because it's when all the characters have been won over.
Yeah.
You gain the favor. No more characters are in play. The game's over. Then whoever has the most wins. So there's no elimination there. And then Guillotine's like even quicker than Spellslingers is.
Jeez.
So, yeah.
There was I remember. So one of my favorite games that I played, you had like this otherworld social deductive like. Do you remember that? It was like you would get like.
So I've tried making a few of these.
Oh, okay.
So are you talking about? There's one I made where there's like a bear mode. I don't think this is what you're talking about.
No, it was almost like a cultist. Oh, I think it led into it was the Zomquatch.
Okay, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
So I do want to make that into a game too. So
That was so fun.
Okay, so I'm trying to think about which one's. Okay, so real quick, so I made one since then. It's called Project Lycos.
Okay.
And the idea is, I'm not sure if you remember the OSI Ruins. It's like the pre-made adventure in Otherworld.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, Seymour, the guy with the slick back hair,
Yeah.
the electric baton. Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea is Project Lycos is the last mission that him and his best friend Niles goes on before they kind of go up a tier and then they stop doing missions because they're at a higher point in their career kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, best friend, let's go on this last mission together. The mission's Project Lycos. They go to Faragna, where a bunch of bandits have captured this artifact that transforms people into bears. And these bandits are like, what is it? But they're just hoarding it. And the idea is you're going there as best friends, as con artists, trying to sneak in, take the artifact, and get out.
Okay.
The thing is it plays kind of like Werewolf, but the villagers are the bandits, and the bandits are there. They're gun happy, and they're going to try to kill you or whatever. And as a con artist, you get caught, but you have to act like a bandit. So you portray yourself.
It's such a weird like reverse almost like.
And here's what's weird too. There's an otherworlder who kills someone every day. So there's just like an otherworlder going around just murking someone. And so it becomes a really crazy time. And there's a variant of the game called Bear Mode. And what Bear Mode is all the bandits. Basically, the idea is by the time you show up, all the bandits have already turned into bears. They're all bears. And then you get the relic, but you're trapped in the village, and basically you have to pretend to be a bear among everyone else in order to survive. And what a bear does in the game is you can't speak. You can only grunt, growl, and make noises. So if we all play, and I'm like the con artist trying to sneak out, and you three are bears, I don't want you guys to know I'm a bear, so we're like, arr, 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 arr. And then Trey would be like, arr, arr, arr. Yeah. And then whoever ends up getting pointed at the most is the one that the bears maul and kill. And then we flip over your cards or whatever and see it, and we move on from there. But that game's not released yet, but we're still playtesting it. That's the general idea.
That right there for anybody watching is peak. I mean, that is a perfect example of Vindicated Entertainment humor in all of your games. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Otherworld, spells, like that humor carries itself across each and every game that you develop, I feel.
I appreciate that. Like, sometimes I try to mention humor and stuff, and people are like, well, comedy's subjective, and it totally is, but it's like you can at least tell like if you're going for it or not, if you're taking yourself very seriously. Like, a lot of tabletop RPGs are very serious. They're very like, muted. There's some color, but it's like muted color. And what's weird about that too is a lot of times when people play those RPGs, they have fun, they laugh, they make silly interactions, it's like the game's made serious, and then they still have funny interactions anyways. But Otherworlds plays to that. It's like it actually fits the universe of Otherworlds. It's like it lends itself to the humor.
That's good.
Yeah, I agree. But the game that you were talking about, Trey, that was called. I don't think I ever had an official name. I think I prototyped it called The Hunt, but I'm sure that's already taken. So maybe it's like the Zomquatch Hunt.
Yeah, you had like a cultist that was trying to sacrifice everybody to the Zomquatch.
Yeah, so the idea is a zombie Sasquatch, or like a Sasquatch got resurrected by necromancers, a zombie Sasquatch called the Zomquatch.
Yep.
Every night it goes in the village and just takes someone out and beats them to death. And the village is like, we have to put a stop to this. So a band of heroes joins up together, but you don't realize that out of the band of heroes, there's a secret assassin, there's a secret cultist.
Yeah.
And as you go on these missions, everyone has different roles they can play. So if you're the fighter, you have attack cards and you have defense cards. If you're the healer, you have like healing cards and maybe defense cards. And then if you're whatever else, you have other cards.
Yeah.
And then the mission that you go on will be random from the deck. And the mission will say, okay, this one, some people got injured. You need to heal them, so they give you supplies. So we need 2 healing cards put in this. Thing is every player puts in a card, shuffles it, and then you reveal, and if you didn't meet the criteria on the mission, you fail the mission, and then someone has to die. Like someone ends up getting murdered on the mission where the Zomquatch comes out and just yanks one of you and rips you in half. And so it's like, man, this is brutal. And the cultist is secretly trying to get everyone murdered because he just believes, he's like worshiping the Zomquatch, thinks that it's like his god or whatever. So you have someone just throwing the mission and you don't know who, and you can choose who goes on the missions too. Yeah. So say like this one needs 2 people on the mission and it's the 4 of us. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not sure if I trust Trey on this one. He's laughing a little too hard. He's like, cultist look in his eye. Let's me and you, man, let's go on this mission. And then it turns out you're the cultist because you're just playing it straight, you know? Yeah. And so I really want to make that game, and honestly, that game would be simple in terms of like, there's not many components. Yeah. There's a few location cards, there's a few roll cards and stuff. Yeah, I don't even know why I think it's just it needs a decent bit of art, like not a whole lot, but probably $300 to $500 worth of art. I gotcha. And then once it goes up on Kick, and then probably like 20 hours worth of Kickstarter prep. But then after that, I think it'd get funded, and I think it would. Yeah, it's a really fun game. Yeah, you've inspired me to like revisit that and make sure we get that made because it's so tough because I come up with so much of these like really fun like simple card games. Yeah, that it's kind of like what I'm getting known for, and I don't mind it necessarily, but I do love the idea of like experimenting with like new types of games, so it's not like, oh, this isn't all I can do.
Keeps your brain like elastic, like you're creating those allows you to it builds that creative muscle.
I appreciate it, and I think you could at least say too, like from playing these different games, like even if like I have several like portable games, they're very different.
Oh dude, you've got that one that's like a social deduction. I mean this was portable and completely different. The Heads or Tails was completely different. I even remember you had an Otherworlds like spinner game, like it was like I don't want to say like Beyblade. I don't really remember how, but I mean, like it was like these little cards, and like you'd spin and like
Otherworld Spin Clash.
Yeah.
And how it came up with this game, I was in art class. I drew a Kraken, and I was like, this thing is awesome. I don't want to throw it away, but I had this whole sheet of paper and a bunch of dumb like homework on it, and I just had the cool picture here, and I was like, well, I'm gonna rip this out. So I ripped it out. I was like, well, what am I gonna do? Like this thing's useless. It's just cool art. I was like, well, what if I turn it into a game? So I wrote numbers on each side of it, and then I was like, okay, so there's numbers on it, so that can be a game element, but how can I make this into a game? And I was like, I wonder if it spins. So I spun it, and it actually spun on the table perfectly. I was like, oh, so we had 2 people spin, compare numbers, highest number wins. Yeah. Very simple game.
Very simple.
So it started off not even being an Otherworlds thing. It started off being like, I made it like a banana dude. And you could like slip under the Kraken and hit it on the other side. Just like random monsters I sketched up I made. But then it's like, okay, I have Otherworlds, I can tie it into that universe. So I made all Otherworlds themed Spin Clash cards. And with that, what makes it more interesting too is there's mechanics. There's a flanking mechanic where after you both land, if you have the flanking mechanic, you then can move to either side. Yeah. So the flanking guys would be weaker, say 2s all around. And this guy might be 7-7-7-0, but if you have the flanking guy landing like this, you're like 7-2, I beat you. You're like, nope, I have flank. Move over to a 0, kill him. Yeah. So like that's a simple mechanic that's in there. There's one where the slip mechanic, you slip behind them. Yeah. And then you hit him from the back. There's some cards that said that they can't be defeated by characters of high power, ones that let you spin multiple times and add up the totals. Like Gunslingers had that ability. So that one I want to make at some point too, but that one's tough because you would need someone who could print like a custom type of thing that would be good for that.
You remember Pogs? You
Yeah.
throw them down and you collect them.
Yeah.
I picture it like that, but you spin them.
Yeah,
that's how I pictured
But
it.
it couldn't be that cardboard type material, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know.
It would need to be like either like a metallic coin or like a,
Ooh,
that'd be the upgraded Kickstarter. But maybe,
that would be cool.
yeah, or maybe some sort of like plastic coin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could. I think it's doable.
Yeah.
You know that
But-
Spin Clash. I'm pretty sure that's the first game of yours I ever played. Because
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, you brought it with us. Oh, it was like a work dinner where our boss was like, "Here, like."
She paid for all of us to go out to eat, and it was me, Abby, and our 2 coworkers, and we all ate at Joy of Tokyo. And I came up with all these different games for us to play. Like I came up with like a weird like dating game thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and funny enough, I was like, me and Quentin are partners on this one. And
But I got stuck on the raisin.
that's his name.
Okay.
But we played
Oh,
a game.
okay. Poor raisin.
We played a game where you had to. It was like do matches attract or do differences attract.
Yeah.
And me and Quentin chose matches, and then they chose differences. So we would have to have the same answers to get points, but they'd have to have the opposite answers to get the
Oh,
points.
that's
I
neat.
forgot
Something
about
like
that
that.
game,
Yeah.
but
So,
yeah,
so that was
yeah.
fun, and then we played the Spin Clash game, so that was a fun time. But yeah, so other games I'm working on. So I already named 2 that I'm working on that haven't been released. The Hunt one and the Heartseeker one, and then Gallant. That's 3. There is another one I really want to do that is. It seems like so much fun, but I just came up with this. I haven't got to play test it yet, so maybe it's not fun, but I think it would be. It's based on Other Worlds, but it's a board game. More focused on the cards still, but I'm trying to just go through my head because I haven't had a physical prototype for it. But everyone chooses a character they play.
Okay.
And each character has a role-playing trait. And the role-playing trait tells you how that character acts, and you're encouraged to act that way. There's no penalty to not act that way. So kind of going back to what you said earlier,
Yeah.
it's there to help inspire you to get into the feeling of role-playing as like an introductory to role-playing elements, but there's no downside to not role-playing. And then, of course, they have an ability they can use, and then you have a certain amount of actions, and it's a cooperative game. And then you go after the enemy deck. There's enemies that get revealed, sort of like the Bloodborne card game. You have like an enemy that reveal themselves, the enemy attacks. You try to defend yourselves, work together. You can have a healer on the team, healing part of your teammates and stuff like that. And you all fight against it. But to make it sillier and funnier is there are some cards where if anyone goes to die in the game, everyone starts the game with a save card. And then if you play the save card, it keeps them from dying and it will re-heal them. But the saves describe certain moments through Other Worlds campaigns that I've hosted.
Oh, that's cool.
And the save has a role-playing element that you're encouraged to do, but you don't have to. But like, for example, there's one campaign I ran where these people at the start of the campaign went to go stop this Hydra farm from happening because this person was breeding Hydras, and Hydras are illegal in Anthos because they're just ravenous monsters that tear through everything. And they arrested that person, but then later they kind of befriended this person. They kind of had some of the laws changed in certain ways where there can be like some supervision to kind of have these Hydras. And then when the city was attacked, these Hydras busted out of the ground and just started attacking and defending the city. And it was under control by this character that they had befriended. So you can have that be a save card. So so basically the idea is since the Hydras are hiding, as you hide under the table until it's your time to come out and shine and play your cards, and you go back under the table because you just go back under like the Hydras did. Or there's one where there's this robot guy that was just ahead at the end of the campaign. He was a bad guy, but he turned into a good guy. So you can play him, and he was a robot. And, well, it's complicated. He was a robot that had a human soul trapped in it.
Okay.
He had the robot part of his head left and was helping people. If you play that save card, you have to attach your head to the table and just keep your head on the table at all times. So there's just dumb things like as you're playing the game, everyone's acting silly. You're trying to play save cards to make sure your friends stay alive, but it's making the game goofier as you're going on. There's still D6s that you're rolling, just like a normal combat that you have. And also, a cool mechanic that I just remembered is, say someone starts as the party leader. So we'll just say you start as the party leader. You're the only person that can choose to attack the enemy that turn. But what we can do is we can choose to support him. So every character has a support or has an attack and defense stat. but our defense counts towards our support and supporting him. So you'll have characters that aren't as good offensively, but has a high defense stat that can lend to your attack. So it's like, okay, I'm a support character, so I'm going to lend to your attack, and then you can go in for the attack, and then you two can try to do like extra abilities or extra cards and things like that, so you have more utility. And then the enemy will focus on the party leader, but after you finish that round, you change to the party leader, and then the enemy will focus on you, and then you're the one that can choose to attack, and then we can choose to support you. So it constantly changes the dynamics of what enemies are in play, who wants to attack, who wants to support, who's better at what, and since everyone can attack, support, and have an ability or two, it really, and you have cards in your hand to play, it really gives you a lot of options while still making it simple, so you're not sure what's going on.
I like that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Nice.
And I don't think Abby's heard I think I told you briefly about that game.
You did.
But that one's one I'm really looking forward to giving a whirl. And then there's a whole nother game.
That's what I'm telling you, man. You just always just firing.
This other one would be the most challenging game I've made yet.
Okay.
For sure. It's called, the name of it is Shards of Ymir. The idea is it's it kind of has like some Norse mythology inspirations, but it's definitely not like just Norse mythology. It's mostly inspired from Final Fantasy actually, but the idea is it's meant to be a storytelling focused board game. So the idea is there's a story that everyone reads at the table, so everyone gets an idea for what the world is, what's going on, the general story, stuff like that, and then you choose your first player to play as the main character of the story. Her name's Ivory. And she has this whole setup with her family, and basically you have someone reading the story through, and then there's different options that she has as a character that you get to choose, and it gives you different cards to set up her build that you start the game off. And then it introduces a second character, and then you have that player jump in, and then they choose, then they're playing that second character, and then you have your 4 characters jump in, and then throughout the story you can acquire other characters. And you can have someone swap their character off to play that new character. Oops, sorry.
You could.
You can say like, okay, I want to swap off and play this new character because this new character is cool.
Yeah.
You get to play them, and then the other characters can still stay in your party. But if they're not controlled by a player, they give you a support ability that still helps you out, and it feels very much in theme of them. But you don't have to worry about controlling a whole other hand and getting things complicated or convoluted, because I'm very much against that. But the idea is you go through the story, and as you play and make decisions, it actually builds your deck differently, but it's very much in favor of the narrative first and like the story first.
Okay.
And how you play sort of this like role-playing adventure, but like play through it together. And
that's neat.
I've never done that before, and I haven't really seen that.
I was just saying that it sounds unique to me. It doesn't sound like something that I've seen done.
I appreciate it. And the combat mechanic for that I'm trying is kind of what the last one is, that I actually took inspiration from this one on that other one I described. The idea is whenever you get into a fight, you can set up your party however you want, where you have it's actually inspired a lot by like Darkest Dungeon, which I think you played. Yeah. So you have like your rows of enemies, you have your rows of your friends, and then you choose which order you want to be in, and the guy in front is always getting hit, but you can choose to move during your turn. So if you're in the front, you can be the guy hitting up front, but you can choose to swap out. And some of the enemies hit the back person or hit
they have a bit, or the way they attack. Yeah, they can.
But by default, most of them will hit the front. So that's going to be the one getting the aggro.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful, because the person in the back could also get hit, and it changes up your strategy. So it has kind of this like tactical, like simple tactical component for the combat as well.
I like it.
Yeah, and for the characters in that, we have Ivory, who's a very strong spellcaster that people seem to be very interested in, and she doesn't know why, but it seems like she has like untapped magical potential that she doesn't quite understand yet. But when she gets emotional or she gets scared or worried, like storms and like tempests are forming, and she can't control it, but she's scared of her abilities. But what helps her is she hones her abilities through playing violin. And as long as she's playing the violin and she sinks herself out, she can actually like have the storm, attack the people that she wants and like keep herself safe and harm. But she has to like get her mind in a very calm place and use the violin as a catalyst to kind of achieve that.
That's cool.
That's a creepy image.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. Well, it gets creepier because one of the first characters introduced is a giant stuffed red panda,
Interesting.
Who came to life through magic and is her best friend and swears to protect her at all costs. And his whole class is he's like a brawler. And you can pick up different.
One of the cutest things on planet Earth, of course. It's got to be
It's
tough.
weird Calvin and Hobbes.
What's cool too is he gets there's different like archetype cards you can get, which is
Yeah.
like your class cards, and you can get like the pugilist or the which is like an old term for like a type of fist fighter. He can get like prize fighter, boxer, and it changes the way that your character fights and plays.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so you get different archetype cards that changes the way that your character plays, and you get different equipment that's styled for your character. So all the like fist, like brass knuckle type equipment goes to him, or you can get mascot hands as a type of equipment for him, or you can get boxing gloves.
Yeah.
And then for the girl, Ivory, you get different types of violins and musical instruments you play.
Ooh, that's cool.
There's a friend that she has, like a childhood best friend. He's like this like cool guy, but kind of awkward. He's like the roguish type. And his thing is he dual wields daggers. And so he has like Eris and Dasania as his daggers, like Romulus and Remus.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
they paired off, different names like that. Then there's another. She has a female best friend, whose name is Clamor, and she is like a gothic mechanic.
Okay.
She's like a punk mechanic, and all of her weapons are named after like grunge rock bands.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and she has her own robot fairy that she built that flies around and heals people and stuff.
I just love the creativity in all the characters.
Thank you,
Like,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, robot fairy.
yeah.
That's new. That's a new one for me.
Yeah.
I try very hard. Then there's a girl who's a female Viking that sailed from across the continent.
Yeah.
Because she heard that there's conflict happening. She wanted to be.
She just
involved
wanted
in
to
the
fight. Yeah.
Yeah. So currently her name's Liv, and she's just this big, brutal, blonde Viking chick with a giant. She wields giant melee weapons, so it can be giant swords, giant axes. She has some fun names for her weapons. Like, of course, she has Bad Axe as a weapon that she gets. But she has some other ones too. I can't remember the names of. Then
Valhalla.
Ivory has a brother who went missing, and he also has a lot of magical potential.
Yeah.
But he has his own agenda that he's doing, and you don't know his themes and what he's doing. But his stuff deals with space magic. We're gonna open up like a black hole and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, and then he doesn't show. He kind of plays a part more and more the later in the story you get.
Okay.
And then there's a guy named Avery who is very optimistic, but he's kind of on the wrong side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully you can like win him over to your side is the idea, because like his heart's in the right place,
Yeah.
but he's being deceived by the bad guys.
Gotcha,
in the story,
yeah.
kind of thing is his thing, and he plays the role of like the paladin, So he's kind of like a knight healer type dude. And I think that's all the main characters of that story. But I'm very interested in trying that one out. Now, what's tough about that though too is like playtesting it seems hard, because I feel like you'll have a lot of friends or people that would have fun playing it the first time, but once you start hearing some of the same story elements over and over, it's like, okay, well, we already heard. I mean, and granted, you can kind of skip, the introduction if you've already heard it and stuff like that. But I'm curious how people will feel about that. But I mean, my idea for that is you have your main story mode where you go through it the one time, and it's a big, vast like campaign experience. Like a video game, you play the story mode, and you normally just play it one time, you're good.
Yeah,
and
you're
you
done.
want to play it over again with new friends, or even just by yourself, or whatever you can. So that's fine. I'm also trying to make it too where you could solo mode it, or you can play with just you and a friend.
Oh, that'd be
so
cool.
There's no limit. Well, I mean, it's probably going to be like 1 to 4 players, but so there's a limit to how many you can play, but it's like, it'd be a bit different than Spell Slingers and Heads or Tails, which is very much like play with a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super excited for that one. So hopefully we'll get that one out soon-ish.
Nice.
In a couple of years.
Yeah.
Something. We'll see.
We'll say one game at a time, getting everything.
Yeah. This year I've taken it a little bit slower just because we have Other Worlds, which is such a big project. And then we have our wedding that will be in September. So I didn't want to like overburden myself.
Congrats by that,
Thank you.
by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate
congratulations.
That. Thank you.
Thanks.
No, I told Abby I didn't want to be too stressed out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say wedding's stressful enough.
Exactly. So we'll leave it at that this year, but it's allowing me to have a lot ready for next year. So next year I'm hoping I can just be like Kickstarter.
Yeah. Hit the ground running.
Every few months, just like here's this card game, here's this card game, here's this card. Because at the very least, I mean, very realistically, Heartseeker's almost done with its art and components.
Yeah.
The game that you brought up, the Hunt, that one I actually do feel comfortable. There's actually a guy that I met who has a whole database full of really cool artwork that he allows people to use for free, as long as you just credit him.
Yeah.
That game might actually... I'll have to look at that to see if it fits, but maybe it won't because it's... I don't know. We'll see if I can tie that into Other Worlds and stuff still. But either way, I think that even if I had to like have art done for it myself or whatever, I think that could very much work. Shards of Ymir would definitely take a little bit more time, and Gallant can definitely take some time. Initially, my idea with Gallant is I wanted to illustrate all the art for it and just have it be like my art style. But I realized I don't feel like I don't have the time or the motivation to draw as much as needed on top of everything else I'm doing. So I'm thinking I might just have some art done for that. But I definitely got to show you Gallant, dude. You will you would love that game. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I was gonna say, is there anything else that we haven't hit on? Abby, you want anything? You're as much a part of this too.
Wow.
You said illustrations or
or whatever you want to talk about.
Well, gee, I mean,
Way to put me on the spot.
What's some of your favorite things going on with Vindicated? It can be. It doesn't have to be game related, or it can be.
Yeah.
Favorite Vindicated thing. I just really love bear mode. No.
I just love bear mode. That's the Instagram
No,
quote.
I had a lot of fun illustrating Guillotine. I illustrated most of Legendaria. And it was kind of... I mean, I did volunteer to do that, but it was kind of a slog. But for...
The reason why she says that, I want to interject real quick, is because I was trying very hard to push her in a certain stylistic art style that isn't hers. Which I didn't realize it was something that would be like a slog for her, like not be comfortable, that kind of thing. But it's not what comes natural to her. And I think you can tell too with the Guillotine art. I think it kind of shines like a certain way. Like there's a certain twinkle in it. And the Legendary art is still good, but it just I feel like you can't notice it just by looking at Legendary art. But if you look at the Guillotine art, I feel like you can tell there's something a little bit more special there.
like that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So here I'm gonna pass the. You can look at the Guillotine deck here, so you can look at the art that she did.
Okay.
But yeah, he wasn't even going to have me do the Guillotine art necessarily, actually. But I was like, well, I have an idea for the witch card.
Yeah, well, partially I felt bad too because I was like, she didn't like doing the Legendary art. I'm not gonna ask Abby to do the Guillotine art.
Yeah, but I drew out witch, and I was like, oh, I really like this. That was fun. I'm going to do a few more. And then I did all those at work. And then when you came in, I was like, look at what I got.
It's got such a distinct style to it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even Blob, like you made Blob have personality.
I tried. So yeah, I was like, you know what? I am gonna do this one.
That's what I'm talking about. When I say Blob has personality. Yeah.
And what's cool is you might not think as blue as being the go-to for Blob, but like Abby very strategically chose the color palettes for every single card. She thought about them individually and as a whole.
Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
That they all like kind of filled their own roles, like color palette wise, which is something that I don't have a particular skill in.
Well, good job. Like that's
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
See what you're saying, the witch. And from what you guys said earlier about liking Halloween and just the monsters, not necessarily like scary, but spooky.
Yeah.
I get that through this whole deck.
Yeah, if there's any questions you would like to ask, I feel like
Well, no,
I've kind of spearheaded it, but I know there's probably stuff that you would like to know too. That from somebody that has no experience with Other Worlds or any of these games, like it would be nice questions from a fresh perspective.
Well, after, this amount of time, I was just here to be a sponge to soak it in. I didn't know where to start with questions, and any kind of questions I did have been answered for sure.
Yeah, so Trey, I think there's 2 cards out of all those that I designed. I did not draw, but I laid out to Abby. I was like, this is how this monster should look.
You want me to guess?
I want you to try to guess which of the 2 monsters I designed myself, where I was like, this is exactly how it should. Actually, kind of 4.
Yeah, technically four.
4. Two of them though are less noticeable, I'd say. But I think 2 of them are a little bit more noticeable. But I mean, it's hard because it's all in her art style. You know?
Yeah.
So it's tough. But yeah, a lot of those were basically Abby's complete imagination and interpretation of how they should look. I had basically just had my own designs for 4 of them. Because I was like, this is how this should look for sure.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of fun designing how a lot of the characters and stuff should look for a lot of the games, but I gave Abby a lot of creative freedom when it came to that.
I don't know. Well, giving me 4. First of all, I feel like is the vampire one?
Nope.
Really?
No, but you might think that because of the hair or something.
I don't know. It just I guess my second guess
Okay.
was gonna be. I'm probably really bad at this. It was the ghoul one?
Nope.
No?
It's okay.
The Wendigo? That was one of my. Okay, that was another.
that was gonna be my
was a
first
guess.
one.
That was my third guess.
Okay, maybe he's better at this than you, Trey.
Yeah.
All right, what's
Yeah.
your second guess?
My second
Yeah, your
guess.
first one was the Wendigo.
And this is that you designed and not her.
Yeah.
Might have to look again.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't even. Well, obviously, I'm bad at that. Now I'm second guessing everything, and I'm like, well, I was thinking this, but maybe not. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, she drew them all.
did I say the skeleton?
I don't think so. No, but I did. That was the one that surprised me the most in terms of like I really like that Abby made the decision to give him like the top hat and the gloves and the tie. I really love those choices. I don't think I would have thought of that.
Was it the chupacabra?
No.
No, it's something about that. It looks so different from all the other ones, though. That one stood out to me a lot. I don't know why it just looks so different than the other ones. Like
Chupacabra was one of the hardest ones for me. Because everyone has their own idea what the chupacabra should look like.
Okay, so the boogeyman was definitely one I definitely designed.
Okay.
Like, he was one that I
skimmed over him for some reason.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know where so the initial idea was there's a Yu-Gi-Oh card, I think it's called Gravedigger, and it has this little weird dude that kind of looks like that with a weird big smile.
I think I know what you're
I
talking
always
about.
love that card, but it's a pretty awful card. It's not a good card, no one plays it. But I was like, I want to make a card that kind of reminds me of that's playable. But he also has kind of like I don't know, like a mascot charm to him, like a Mickey Mouse thing going on.
Rubber hose.
Like a rubber hose look, and I don't know. I don't know where the hat idea came from.
I like it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. But and then the other one's the ghost and the spirit. Because Abby was drawing some different ghosts, but I was like, I really picture them looking like this for some reason. So I really wanted that.
And I'm glad that you did, because weirdly the ghost and spirit was like.
She was struggling with it.
Yeah, because they're just the idea is so simple. That it's like, how do I make this interesting?
I noticed, like, I saw Ghost and then I saw Spirit, and I thought, how cool, like, just that you were able to, you know, make them 2 different looking entities. Because when you think of a ghost and a spirit, an illustration of it, most people would think of a ghost.
Yeah.
But
have one picture in mind.
Yeah. And, like, I guess in the guillotine lore, the ghost, it looks more, I don't know if friendly is the right word, but, like, not mean or... mean-spirited
not threatening.
Not threatening.
There you
the
go.
spirit's a little bit more like hee and mischievous, and his ability, like the ghost doesn't have an ability because he's not threatening or anything.
Yeah.
But the spirit can essentially kind of like bring back a card from the dead and take over its value for itself.
Nice.
So it's a little bit more imposing.
Yeah. By the way, I totally didn't mean to dunk on Legendary. Like that wasn't my intent. I still had fun with like a good amount of those.
Don't you talk about my baby.
Yeah, and we've gotten complimented on the art for Legendary, and people do like it and stuff. But I definitely feel like there's a little spark missing.
Yeah.
And I mean, but
keep talking. I'm gonna kind of flash up some cards.
Yeah.
We did
Show the art.
That with,
with Legendary though, we did feature some other artists too, and they did a really good job. So I was happy to have like the artists that we had come aboard. Because at first I was like, Abby, I'm just gonna have you do all the art. That was the initial idea, and not draw every character because there's over 100 legends in Legendary.
So there's a lot.
But there's probably like at least 20 pieces of art for characters, or 25, 30, or I don't know. I have no idea actually. But there's a decent bit. Maybe 20. I don't know. Anyways, it would have been a lot for Abby.
Yeah, but it's, a good bit of them were still really, especially I really liked doing Anne Bonny, and then. Also a pirate, what was the one that Ajax wanted? What was his? Bartholomew?
Yeah, Bartholomew Roberts, Black Bar.
Well, yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that.
That one was cool. I think that actually has one of the coolest designs. I forgot that was even the art, because that's in the Kickstarter like package.
Oh yeah.
And not in the core rulebook.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one was really cool too. And it was fun to try to make him look like Ajax a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a little biased on that one just because I had a blast playing that game. That's one of my favorite games to play, Legendaria.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm wanting to host a game soon. I've just been nervous because of all the Otherworld stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know how much it's gonna like split my attention. For Legendaria, but Legendaria is so much fun. Like whether I'm running it or playing it, it's just like
it's such a unique game.
Yeah.
Like,
it is. I still like it. The hardest part about that game is pitching it to people.
Yeah.
For people watching right now, just so we can kind of cover what Legendaria is briefly, it's basically like a role-playing game, but you choose a character among a roster of over 100 legends, and the very unique component about it is you play through text messaging.
Yep.
And no one knows what any of the actions being taken are, except for the guy running the game.
It's the perfect COVID game.
It is, yeah. I pitched it that too. I was like, hey, if you're locked inside or you don't want to be social, or you can't be social, then play this game, because this game is perfect for that. And I don't know that a lot of people bought into that specific messaging, but it's absolutely true.
Oh yeah,
it really is.
No, I still have really good memories. Did I only play it once?
I remember when we first played it. No, you played multiple. You played a couple times at least.
Yeah.
But when we first played it, we're like, let's see if this game's any fun, because we had no idea if this game was going to be fun. But we played it and we talked about that for like weeks.
I went home and made characters.
Yeah, like it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, that game has more input from Trey on it than even Otherworlds does. Probably. Yeah. I mean, like when you give me a lot of like feedback and stuff about Otherworlds, but you like literally like went through and like you were writing out characters for Legendary and stuff.
It was hard to stop. Like it's addicting.
Yeah, it's
because it's almost limitless as long as it's public domain. Like you can do whatever. Like,
and even for your personal like free time, like if we just played a game amongst ourselves that wasn't like a product, we could throw in Spider-Man, Goku, or whatever. Yeah. So that just
there was a My Hero version. Like
within like 2 weeks of us knowing each other, I remember sitting next to you at the iHeart desk, and you were showing me all the characters you created and all the time that went into
running
it.
Through I would seriously sit there at work because iHeart running the front desk. I'm just sitting there waiting for people to come in, so I got a lot of free time. So I would have like 6 or 7 tabs open with like all these different historical figures, and then I'd be sitting here writing up stats and balancing it out, and then going, okay, what can he do? What kind of special ability? Like, and that's what I did in my free time.
It was pretty interesting what you figured out when it comes to the Tom Worley character, the Lynx.
Oh yeah,
and what you discovered about what was the character, or what was it called? Was it just a lynx?
Oh, you talking about the spirit or whatever? It was like a Bakaneko or something like that. It's like an angry spirit cat or something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Possibly. Well, you said something was inspired from, or you didn't realize that you had created this character that fit, like you had this whole backstory for the Lynx with Tom Worley, and it tied into one of the characters that you had done on.
Oh, I don't even remember, to be completely honest with you. There's no telling though. It wouldn't surprise me.
And what's cool too is like Trey and I could both design a character in Legendaria, be almost completely different.
Yeah, like Jack the Ripper, so like a historical figure. Like we both designed this specific person,
and we could also look at each other's and be like, "I see exactly how you created that. Like I see like why you chose everything you chose."
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And they both fit. You know?
It's like a variant.
Yeah, which is cool. And we do have a few variants in the game. Like the dumbest one's Handsome Spartacus, where it's Spartacus, but he has a face mask that's kind of like the idea of like Handsome Jack. And I don't even know why we came up with that idea, where that came from.
I don't either.
I and it's a part of the game because most of the things is not that.
Yeah.
But that is in the game, and it's Spartacus, but he has like completely different move set, and he has one move that's like called "I'm Spartacus."
Yeah, I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I want to say Ajax just kept making that reference. Anytime we bring up Spartacus, he'd be like, "I'm Spartacus," every time.
Yeah, and I was thinking too. I was like, oh, I guess I could reuse some of my art assets.
Yeah.
Just have like a face drawn and put it on them. So so as an indie game designer, you have to be budget friendly when you can. So, and it made them play completely different too.
Yeah.
Like it's cool.
I think one of my favorites was Hansel and Gretel. Mm-hmm. Just because like the switcheroo there, like you can play around with it so much because you get to play two characters at once.
Yeah, and no one knows.
No one knows. They do now that they're watching this podcast, but no. But I thought because that was my first like. I guess official Legendaria playthrough. Like we had played a little bit, like we played like sitting around the table like 1 or 2 games, but that was the first one where you're like, all right, we're gonna at 10 o'clock a.m. we're gonna have these. Like we actually did it over.
The Hansel and Gretel was the first game.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because that was the one where wasn't there Mulan and like Odin?
Yep. Yeah, because Ajax was Odin.
Yeah, that was the first game.
That was an intense game.
I love that game so much.
She was the headless horseman.
Yeah, I was just saying the headless horseman. We could never figure it out.
Well, what's funny is she was the headless horseman, but it's not. I love the idea of having mystery, so I didn't want the headless horseman to just appear headless in front of people because people would know who it is. So the idea is that she has an illusionary head from a person of that time period. So she would walk up and talk to people, and they were in this group setting, and someone died, and like Mulan just killed over and died.
Yeah,
after
murdered.
Her character was like, "Who am Mulan?" And then she's like, and just falls over and dies, and everyone else is like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, what just
And
happened?
Caleb's character's like, it has to be her. So he like summons his sword, his angel wings fly out, and he flies towards her and goes to behead her, and it just goes right through his her neck, like just.
It's perfect because he just happened to target her head.
Yeah, and then he was like, "Oh, I guess this is an illusion," and he's like, "Well, you fiend, like we know you're up to no good," and then. If they hit her body, she would die. But
We bought into it, and we were like, "Oh, he's a ghost."
they all drew out their weapons and stuff, and like, "Oh, it's a ghost. We're just gonna let her be." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm a ghost. Bye." And just like left.
We could have murdered her.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the way that played out was like crazy. Like we had a guy who was a Viking, and
Oh my god.
and then she was like, "Hey, like I know your true name. I could kill you at any moment, like just by saying your name. Like don't try to fight me."
Yeah.
He's like, "You stupid headless horseman, I don't fear you." And he like jumped up in the air, like brought down his axe, and then she's like, "Ragnar Lothbrok," and he went, "Oh!" And fell on this guy, and just died. And then
I'm
nice.
so mad about that.
yeah, and then Caleb's character met, and then she's like, I know your real name. I can kill you at any moment." And the thing was that she was bluffing. She had no idea what his real name was.
No.
I don't think you knew the real name, and on top of it, it doesn't work if the person's protected with gold armor, any type of gold accessory armor.
No,
And he was-
I'm pretty sure I did know his name, but
Okay.
it's just that.
He had-
I think it was the gold armor. You just couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he had gold armor though, but he didn't know that negated it. Because no one knows anyone else's abilities.
It's all a mystery. You have to investigate to figure it out.
Yeah, like you don't know what these things are. And so he bought the bluff, and he's like, "Okay, I'll team up with you. I won't fight you." And that's literally what he did.
And speaking of the role playing aspect, you have role playing attributes that are suggestions that you could lean into, but you're not penalized for not doing so. So as Hansel and Gretel, I was always eating candy, always.
And what's great is I have never seen anyone play that game without role playing.
Yeah, I mean, it just fits. It
Yeah.
just, I don't know, it just goes so well together.
It would be hard not to role play it.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you not gonna like try to role play this at least a little bit?
Ando and I talked about it when they were on the podcast the other week, and we talked about Ando played as Saint Germain, and I was running it, and I was Sherlock. And I have seriously paragraphs from each of us. Like we got into it, and it was so much fun.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we definitely need some legendary games going on.
Yes.
Yes, please.
He's like, I just want to play something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I miss it. I've ran a few games I think last year, but I don't think I've ran one. Maybe I ran one at the beginning of this year.
Maybe.
It was either the beginning of this year or late last year, but that was a ton of fun. A lot of interesting things going down. We had one of the last ones I ran was I can't remember. I can't remember a lot of the details, but I remember that it ended up with like no one was killing each other for the longest period of time, but there were kind of two factions at war with each other, and each group ended up teaming up together and joining like one army.
Yeah.
And they literally went onto like a battlefield, and everyone but one person died. And it was like it was like when I told the story.
Yeah.
It was like it was going on and on and on. And it was like this person died. Dun, 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 this person died.
Yeah.
This person died. And it was like people were just reading like, did I die? Did I die? Like,
Yeah.
And just people are dying one by one.
Well, and that's very much Legendary. Is you're trying to be the last one left alive.
No disrespect, gotta pee.
Okay, there are variants where like you could complete a story and beat it like they're like an alternative win condition, I should say. But like the main meat of Legendary is it's a battle royale, like fight to the death. Last legend left surviving, and you're incentivized. Like the more you know about somebody's abilities, the more you can prepare against their attack. So you could shop for gold armor if you're fighting against the headless horseman because you know, oh, that's a weakness for them. Or you can quest and get like legendary items throughout history. Like it's so cool. Like just I don't know.
And I think one of the last games that you played was one that had Blake and I had one of my coworkers playing, had one of my friends Judson playing. And I think you were playing Jack the Ripper. And there was explosions that went off everywhere. And I think you were like in a jail cell. And I think the jail crumbled on you.
Killed me. Yeah.
Do you know what happened? Like, I don't know if you knew what happened to that.
No, I vaguely remember that. Yeah, well, I don't know. It's kind of a neat way to die. Like, it sucks, but at the same time, it's like, well, I mean, it's dynamic. Like, the world's changing.
Yeah, so Judson was playing Phantom of the Opera, and he can set up cellars that he sets up explosives under.
Oh.
So he had explosives set all up underneath the jail and up under all these other areas. And he basically... let's see, our friend and patron Murph was in the game playing Lilith, who had teamed up with Masamune, and they were fighting off like two people or one person. And Masamune actually acquired Excalibur, so he had Masamune and Excalibur, and he was wrecking faces, like he was just throwing a ton, like he was doing awesome. But Phantom Opera spent the first half of the game, or majority of the game, just setting up all these bombs. Yeah. And he's like, Showtime, or whatever, just like snapped his fingers, everything blew up.
That's so awesome.
And then it killed you, it killed like one or two other characters. It got Masamune down to like 2 health. Yeah. And it got Lilith down to like 2 health. And it killed the person that they were fighting. And then there was just like a bunch of rubble. And then the Murph, like playing Lilith, was just like, I'm knocked unconscious, like I'm not doing anything, I'm just laying on the rubble. Yeah. Like, okay. And then Phantom of the Opera shows up in front of Masamune and he's like, it seems that you haven't died from this. Well, we're in the end game now, and it's time for me to kill you. And Masamune's like coughing up blood, like all the battles scratched and scathed, and he's like, you can try, sorcerer, but you're not gonna take me down easily. And then they had like a brutal fight, but the thing is the Phantom of the Opera isn't the strongest physically nor magically. Yeah. But normally he can get around an enemy as long as they are either weak to physical or weak to magical. Mm-hmm. The problem with Masamune for him is that since Masamune is a paladin class, he's one of the only fighters that actually has like a good magic defense. Yeah. So Phantom of the Opera could not roll well enough to actually hit. And literally he's like trying to hit Masamune, and Masamune kept blocking and barely surviving, and then summoned Excalibur and stabbed it through Phantom of the Opera and killed him. And then as soon as he finished Phantom of the Opera, he got lightning bolted from the back by Lilith. And she's like, piece of cake. And then Blake came in and did the Stairway to Heaven or whatever. Yes. Played his music, and then took everyone to like some ethereal realm.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
The alt win.
The alt win.
Yeah, so it was a wild game.
I still really, really love that Phantom of the Opera as a character that you can play.
Oh yeah.
There's so many. Like you said, there's 100.
Yeah,
so, like,
we had one game where I was theming it around like Cthulhu, and like there was like weird like Eldritch world. Yeah. But it was everyone started in the same room, and they could choose to investigate each other and maybe kill each other down the road, but they could also try to work together. But as the game went on, they might start going insane. They might start being driven to madness. Someone in the room was like not aligned with them, like a secret agent kind of thing, and like things were going on. And by the end of it, the only ones left alive was Cerberus and Red Riding Hood, and they teamed up to fight Cthulhu.
Oh, that's
and,
awesome.
And they lost. They both died.
Yeah.
And Cthulhu resurrected them, and now there's like I want to create basically an Eldritch Red Riding Hood that rides Cerberus.
Oh, that would be sick.
As a legend. Yeah, and that would actually be something that happened from the campaign.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I could talk about this stuff all day. Which probably wouldn't be healthy, but yeah, do probably gotta get going, I guess. But I don't know. It's
So
it's
as
so
we
special talking about it, you know.
as we wrap up, where can people find where can people find you? Where can they find more about Vindicated Entertainment?
The absolute best place is vindicateentertainment.com. That's where I try to have links to everything. I have information about all the games being worked on, all the games released, all the products we have out, our Twitch channel, YouTube channel, all that stuff. Vindicateentertainment.com. I'll be sure that they have a link so they can link it below.
Yep.
Number one best spot. We have a cool Discord community where you can see like very up to date like with what we're doing. But we also use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Some of those more than others. Facebook doesn't like to show everyone things. They have a terrible algorithm for that. Instagram I like a decent bit, but it's kind of like, you know. And then Twitter I don't use as much for the company, but you know we try to put stuff out there every so often.
Okay.
Website's the best though. Website, and then follow where other the social medias you prefer.
Well, very cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both.
Yeah, for real.
It's been a blast.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. It was a lot of fun. Definitely need to play some more games with you guys soon.
Deal.
Would love that. I've been neglected when it comes to games, so
You just didn't know what you were missing.
I didn't. I've neglected myself.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, at least you get to experience firsthand heads or tails. That's a rare treat.
Yes, and I want one. So, all right. Well,
Well, I mean, good news is I brought one of these here to gift to you guys, so you guys can have
You didn't have to do that.
this.
no.
Thanks to having me on the show. So I'm not sure how you guys want to split it or do it or anything. You guys can have
can
it
have
here.
it.
You guys can play it.
I was gonna say I have enough. Like, I would feel bad taking it because I've already got Spellslingers Otherworld. So I've got the
We'll
Otherworld
just-
rulebook. I've got Legendary rulebook.
We'll just leave it in the house. I don't
Cool, it's
see many house parties I'm going to in the next.
The community heads or tails.
There we go. Community heads or tails.
Hey, maybe if you have someone who's really into games that's on the show or something,
Yeah.
you can show it to them. Doesn't even have to be on the podcast, but just you can show the game to some people that stop by, things like that.
I would love to just play a round randomly
Yeah.
of heads or tails on the show with a
Just
guest.
It'd just be a challenge. We just do one round.
Yeah, we could put it.
I like that.
It'll be a yellow ball because it's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah.
okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you for that, sir.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Much
Also, do you
appreciated.
guys like LaCroix? Because I don't, but I have tons of it in my car. Long story.
I actually do. Yeah.
I'll drink LaCroix.
So I haven't had it. I haven't opened it and tried it because I'm afraid of wasting it. I don't like wasting
Fair
stuff.
enough.
I don't think I'd like it, but I
Flavor
have a
is
ton of it in my car.
I make a non-alcoholic cocktail with LaCroix with
You tell me that.
apple cider vinegar, and it's a whole
I'm gonna give you
thing.
some of the LaCroix.
Okay.
I'm gonna give some of it to my parents. I'm gonna give some of it to you guys.
Okay.
Long story short is we did a stream where we were watching the Crunchyroll Anime Awards,
Yeah.
and we played a drinking game where we had to just like drink tons of. Well, the thing is, I had a different sparkling water. And
Yeah.
I was working my way through that, and then was going to go to LaCroix. Didn't get quite that far. I ended the sparkling water that I had right before the LaCroix stuff. So I didn't ever have to have the LaCroix.
Never cracked
and also I had it where my everyone else there went to LaCroix before I did because I was kind of having because everyone was telling me by comparison the sparkling water I had was much better. So I was like, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
On with this
I'm
thing.
gonna savor it.
Those are called ugly drinks.
Interesting. I'll check that out.
they're-
I like sparkling water, so.
Well, ugly to me, like they said, like that the ugly sparkling water is the best sparkling water they had, so might be worth checking out.
I'm
Interesting.
gonna have to check that out.
All right.
Well,
So after this, they're getting some LaCroix.
Heck yeah.
Their heads or tails game.
Heads or tails and LaCroix. Doesn't get any better than that. All right. Well, thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Abby.
Very
thank you
well.
guys.
And until next time, we've been the Scottish Hush Puppy, and I got some food to go eat.
And until then, my ghastly gang, stay spooky.
Jordan belt stirred. Jordan belt stirred.
Create shit.
Yeah.
Build anything. Make it real.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan belt third. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped a Molly and I think it's be my third.